Good evening. Welcome to a special report. I'm Bret Baier. President Trump is making history tonight by making good on a campaign promise his predecessors broke. The president has begun the process of declaring Jerusalem to be Israel's capital and moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. World leaders, even the Pope, have urged the president to reconsider. We have Fox team coverage tonight. James Rosen in Washington with historical perspective on the Jerusalem move. Connor Powell in Jerusalem with international reaction. But we begin with Chief White House correspondent John Roberts on the North Lawn and what led to this monumental decision. Good evening, John.
Brett, good evening to you. He was cautioned not to do it by advisors and world leaders alike, but today President Trump insisted 22 years of doing the same thing in Israel has yielded nothing in terms of peace, so he is going to shake it up. For decades, U.S. presidential candidates have pledged they would be the one to move the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Today, Donald Trump became the first one as president to say he is going to do it.
Today, we finally acknowledge the obvious, that Jerusalem is Israel's capital. Consistent with the Jerusalem Embassy Act, I am also directing the State Department to begin preparation to move the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
During the campaign, President Trump's opponents ridiculed him as no friend of Israel, despite the president pointing out he was once the Grand Marshal of the Israel Day Parade. So candidate Trump adopted a forceful platform that, if elected, he would buck years of U.S. policy and make the move.
When I become president, the days of treating Israel like a second-class citizen will end on day one. We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
What to do about the embassy sparked months of intense debate at the White House. Rex Tillerson, James Mattis, and H.R. McMaster all promoted the status quo. Jared Kushner is said to have wanted to use it as a chit to help broker a peace deal. In Congress, Nancy Pelosi, who voted for the 1995 law stipulating the embassy be moved, today said actually moving it is a terrible idea. That, quote, moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem now may needlessly spark mass protests, fuel tensions, and make it more difficult to reach a durable peace. Her Democratic colleague, Congressman Eliot Engel of New York, on the other hand, thinks the time is right.
There's no doubt in my mind Israel's capital is Jerusalem, and I think what the president did was the right thing.
In announcing the move, President Trump insisted he is still firmly committed to helping find peace between Israel and the Palestinians.
I intend to do everything in my power to help forge such an agreement. Without question, Jerusalem is one of the most sensitive issues in those talks. The United States would support a two-state solution if agreed to by both sides.
And he urged both sides to do nothing to inflame the situation on the ground.
I call on all parties to maintain the status quo at Jerusalem's holy sites, including the Temple Mount, also known as Haram al-Sharif.
Despite the president's assurances that nothing in regard to U.S. policy on borders and territory will change, the administration is still preparing for possible trouble. The State Department issuing travel warnings for government employees and American visitors in the region, while the Pentagon is dispatching U.S. Marine fast teams to embassies in the region to beef up security. Moving the embassy is also an important political move for President Trump. It helps shore up support among Jewish voters, many of whom were skeptical of him during the campaign last year. It also throws a huge bone to his evangelical base, one pastor saying that in the eyes of evangelicals, President Trump has historically stepped into immortality. Brett?
John Roberts, live in the North Lawn. John, thanks. No country currently has its embassy in Jerusalem, and around the world, leaders' reaction to the president's move has been intense. Correspondent Connor Powell has that part of the story from Jerusalem.
As word spread that President Trump planned to formally recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, Palestinians expressed their anger. In Bethlehem, Muslims and Christians alike burned photos of Mr. Trump, while several hundred people gathered in a peaceful protest in Gaza as Palestinian leaders called for 3 days of rage. In a televised statement, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas saying tonight that Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine and that with this unilateral move, America has withdrawn from its role in the peace process.
This decision by President Trump is clearly one of the most irresponsible decisions taken by American presidents vis-a-vis the region and the chances of peace.
Israelis, however, celebrated the announcement, lighting up the walls of the old city with images of the American flag and thanked President Trump.
This decision reflects the president's commitment to an ancient but enduring truth, to fulfilling his promises, and to advancing peace.
The White House is still insisting it will pursue peace talks between Israelis and Palestinians. But critics of today's declaration say the failure to recognize Palestinians' aspiration for their capital in East Jerusalem undercut the peace process. World leaders have condemned the Trump policy and called the U.S. move a massive blow to Middle East peace.
It's going to be a grave mistake. Grave mistake. It will not bring any stability, peace, but rather chaos to the region.
In his weekly address, Pope Francis called for authorities to respect worshippers of all faith in Jerusalem, a sentiment also stressed by President Trump tonight in his speech. Shortly after President Trump made his announcement, British Prime Minister Theresa May issued a statement breaking with the White House, calling President Trump's move to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital unhelpful in the pursuit of peace. Brett?
Connor Powell live in Jerusalem tonight. Connor, thank you. Donald Trump is not the first presidential candidate to promise to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, but as president, he is the first to actually take steps to do it. Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen, our resident historian, shows us how we got here.
As smoke rises over Jerusalem.
Since Israel's founding, 12 successive presidents have struggled through a series of wars and peace processes to solve the Rubik's Cube that is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, central to which has always been the fate of Jerusalem. The difficulty compounded after Israel, with its victory in the Six-Day War of 1967, unified the Holy City.
Every president for the last number of presidents, large number, they've come in and they were going to do it, and then all of a sudden they decide they don't want to get involved.
The Democratic Convention platforms of 1972 and 76 advocated for Jerusalem as Israel's capital, and as a congressman, Gerald Ford had done so. But neither Mr. Ford nor Jimmy Carter pushed the idea as president.
Do solemnly swear.
Bill Clinton did pledge to move the embassy, but when Congress overwhelmingly approved a measure in 1995 mandating it happen by May 31st, 1999, the president allowed it to become law without his signature, citing pending peace initiatives.
As soon as I take office, I will begin the process of moving the United States ambassador to the city of Israel as chosen as its capital.
That promise also went by the boards. Elliot Abrams, who worked the issue throughout the Bush-Cheney era, explained why.
I think President Bush and President Obama and President Clinton were persuaded by two things. Number one, a lot of pressure from the State Department. And secondly, by what I'd call threats of violence. If you do this, there'll be rioting, there'll be terrorism, and it will be your fault. The whole Arab world will go up in smoke if you do this.
Abrams said he believes those same warnings had a reverse effect on President Trump, who by temperament and as a longtime billionaire tends to bristle when told what he can and cannot do. Like his predecessors, Mr. Trump at first issued the 6-month waiver, putting off the relocation. But ultimately, as in the case of the Iran nuclear deal, where he at first issued a certification, this president defied the warnings and threats from overseas allies. Brett?
More on all this with the panel. James, thank you. There are new calls tonight from fellow Democrats asking Minnesota Democratic Senator Al Franken to resign. And as of a few minutes ago, that list now includes the top Democrat in the Senate, Senator Chuck Schumer. Franken's office says he will have something to say tomorrow. This comes as more women accuse Franken of inappropriate sexual behavior. Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel is on Franken Watch tonight up on Capitol Hill. Good evening, Mike.
Well, Brett, good evening. Minnesota Public Radio is reporting Senator Al Franken is expected to resign tomorrow, citing Democratic sources, but his staff says no final decision has been made. Also tonight, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer says Franken should step down immediately. His support here has vanished.
enough is enough.
Kirsten Gillibrand and a flood of Democrat senators, first women and then men, are calling on their colleague, Minnesota Senator Al Franken, to resign or step aside.
Senator Franken's conduct was wrong. He has admitted to it, and he should resign from the Senate.
I do not feel that he should continue to serve. Everyone will make their own judgment.
Franken's staff told reporters the senator will be making an announcement tomorrow, and some of his colleagues say they expect he'll resign. An aide to fellow Minnesota Democrat Senator Amy Klobuchar says the senator spoke personally with Franken. And Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said he does not believe Franken, quote, can effectively serve the people of Minnesota. Politico was first to report a seventh woman has come forward accusing Franken of sexual misconduct, a former Democratic congressional aide accusing him of trying to forcibly kiss her. And now an eighth woman tells The Atlantic Franken groped her, too.
We need to have the truth, and part of that truth is going to make us feel like hell. Al's going to have to make that decision.
We've seen false and negative tax.
With Republican Senate candidate Roy Moore dealing with sexual misconduct allegations of his own, some in the GOP fear Moore will be a political liability.
If he does win, is the gift that keeps on giving in terms of Democratic politics. If you're running in 2018 and Roy Moore wins, he will become your best friend whether you want him to or not.
I am retiring today.
The pressure on Franken came a day after Michigan Democrat Congressman John Conyers submitted his resignation letter. Some members of the Congressional Black Caucus had complained about Conyers being treated differently than Franken.
No, he was one of the founders, the 7 people who founded the Congressional Black Caucus.
Now Franken is not being treated differently after about 6 female Democrat senators came forward saying it was time for him to go. It quickly became an avalanche. Brett?
Mike Emanuel live on the Hill. Mike, thanks. 6 women are suing Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein over sexual harassment claims. The women say they want to represent a class of dozens, if not hundreds, of Weinstein's accusers. The lawsuit says actresses and other women in the film industry were lured to hotel rooms and elsewhere under the pretense of business discussions. Attorneys for Weinstein say he never committed sexual assault, but Weinstein remains deeply sorry for those offended by his behavior. Time magazine is naming women who have spoken out against sexual harassment the Silence Breakers as its Person of the Year. The cover features actress Ashley Judd, singer Taylor Swift, and former Uber engineer Susan Fowler. Time praised women who it says have, quote, given, quote, voices to open secrets, moving whisper networks onto social networks, for pushing us all to stop accepting the unacceptable. There are new allegations tonight in the case of Alabama Republican Senate candidate Roy Moore, who has been accused by multiple women of sexual misconduct. A newspaper report says Moore began dating his now wife before she divorced her first husband, contradicting his own account. All this comes with less than a week to go before voting in that Senate race that has captured national and international attention and brought out the big guns. Correspondent Jonathan Sari reports tonight from Birmingham.
Doug Jones is the personification of Hillary Clinton's policies.
Stumping for Roy Moore at a rally in Fairhope, Alabama, former White House advisor Steve Bannon not only blasted the Democratic challenger, but Republican establishment figures who have been critical of Moore. Here's what he said about Mitt Romney.
But you hid behind your religion. You went to France to be a missionary while guys were dying in rice paddies in Vietnam. Do not talk to me about honor and integrity. Judge Roy Moore has more honor and integrity in that pinky finger than your entire family has and its whole DNA.
Doug Jones criticized the rally, tweeting, "We don't need an outside agitator like Steve Bannon carpetbagging in Alabama."
Roy Moore in the United States Senate would be a disaster for business in Alabama.
In a speech yesterday, Doug Jones warned his opponent's outspoken views on controversial social issues could discourage auto manufacturers and other industries from investing in the state. Today, the Democrat spoke with reporters during a visit to a campaign phone bank.
I think the issues involving women is working for our campaign. I think issues involving health care is working for our campaign. I think issues involving jobs and education is working for our campaign.
Jones calls these kitchen table issues, a term Moore referenced at last night's rally.
You know, I heard about this kitchen table issues. You know what a kitchen table issue is? like transgender bathrooms, that's a pretty good kitchen table issue.
With the election less than a week away, the More campaign has been bolstered by the president's official endorsement, followed by the RNC's decision to resume financial support. Tonight, the Real Clear Politics average of polls shows More leading Jones by a razor-thin margin. Brett?
Jonathan Seri in Birmingham. Jonathan, thank you. So who do you think will win in Alabama? Let me know on Twitter at Bret Baier. Use the hashtag Special Report, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bret Baier SR. Firefighters in Southern California have their hands full right now. They are battling a series of blazes fueled by the whipping Santa Ana winds. Senior correspondent Adam Housley is in Ventura County tonight.
This is a multi-day weather event projected to last until Friday. This has only just begun.
The beginning of December brought a flurry of wildfires across Southern California, with wind gusts approaching hurricane force and conditions tinder dry.
It's that combination of those gusty Santa Ana winds and the very low relative humidity led to explosive fire growth.
The largest and most destructive, the Thomas Fire, about 60 miles northwest of Los Angeles in Ventura County. The flames scorched more than 100 square miles and drove tens of thousands from their homes.
I just wanted to get out of the house, so we just left, basically, with just the clothes on our back.
I've been here all my life, and to see this happen right now, it's crazy.
NASA images show the smoke visible from space. The fuel for these fires, a year in the making after last winter's precipitation allowed the vegetation to grow. But with no rain in 3 months, the dry conditions, along with the Santa Ana winds, are now fueling the fires.
It doesn't take a lot under these conditions to start a fire. When you put wind behind it, embers can travel miles downwind, which creates another fire.
And about 60 miles east of Ventura in Sylmar, people and animals also fleeing the creek fire, the blaze charring more than 10,000 acres. And 20 miles to the south of Sylmar, a brush fire created a scary morning commute down the notoriously busy 405 freeway in Los Angeles, prompting a shutdown and burning multi-million-dollar homes in the wealthy Bel Air neighborhood. The flames coming dangerously close to the famed Getty Center Museum. Los Angeles' mayor warning residents to be prepared to go.
Be safe, get ready, load up your cars.
Brett, tonight the winds are still allowing firefighters to make some headway with some of these fires in Southern California, but the worry is about the forecast for the winds to come back, potentially as strong as 70 miles an hour, possibly stoking new fires or even reigniting areas like this that have already been burned out, threatening the few homes and hillsides that did survive the firestorm around here. Brett.
Adam Housley live in Ventura. Adam, thank you. The illegal immigrant acquitted of killing a San Francisco woman is facing new charges. That is next.
This program is brought to you by IBM. You to the power of IBM.
Another day at the office. Why do you put up with it? Believe it or not, you actually like what you do, even love it. And today, you can do things you never could before. You're working in millions of places at once with IoT sensors, analyzing social data on the cloud to create new designs, and using blockchain to help prevent fraud. So get back to it and do the best work of your life.
Liberty Mutual saved us almost $800 when we switched our auto and home insurance.
Liberty did what?
Yeah, they saved us a ton, which gave us a little wiggle room in our budget.
Wish our insurance did that. Then we could get a real babysitter instead of your brother.
Hey, welcome back. This guy, right? Yes. Ellen?
That's my robe.
You could save $782 when Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
You've never seen anything like this. Ridiculous, outrageous talent doing ridiculous, outrageous stuff. Tune into Game Show Network on December 20th at 9 p.m. to watch Kmart's Ridiculous Cash Bash Game Show. You've got to see it to believe it.
There is an army on French soil, trained and funded like no other army in history.
Next time, bring more men.
Let's see why people everywhere are upgrading their water filter to zero water. Start with water that has a lot of dissolved solids. Pour it through Brita's two-stage filter. Dissolved solids remain? What if we filter it over and over? Oh, dear. Thank goodness Zero Water's 5-stage filter gets to all zeros the first time. So maybe it's time to upgrade. Get more out of your water. Get Zero Water.
Watch Fox News Channel anytime, anywhere. Fox News Go.
You do all this research on the perfect car, then smash it into a tree. Your insurance company raises your rates. Maybe you should have done more research on them.
For drivers with accident forgiveness, Liberty Mutual won't raise your rates due to your first accident. Switch and you could save $782 on home and auto insurance. Call 1-844-257-7374 for a free quote today. Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
My dad's grandma's Aunt Stacy.
What are the reasons you care for your heart? Hunol CoQ10 with 3 times better absorption as the #1 cardiologist recommended form of CoQ10 to support heart health. Hunol, the better CoQ10.
This is a hernia mesh legal alert. If you experienced problems following hernia repair that resulted in removal of the hernia mesh, you may have a case.
Call 1-800-296-1275 for a free case evaluation.
House lawmakers are thought to be moving closer toward passing a government funding extension to avoid a government shutdown at the end of the week, the end of the work week. Many Republicans want to delay action on the budget while a conference committee works on tax reform. A vote on a temporary spending bill is expected tomorrow. Stocks were mixed today. The Dow lost 40, the S&P 500 dropped a third, the Nasdaq gained 14. The House has passed a bill that would make it easier for gun owners to legally carry concealed weapons across state lines. It's the first piece of gun legislation since mass shootings in Nevada and Texas killed more than 80 people. House Democrats are accusing Republicans today of doing the bidding of the National Rifle Association. The illegal immigrant and convicted felon who was acquitted in the murder of a San Francisco woman last week is now facing serious federal charges. Correspondent Claudia Cowan has details tonight from San Francisco.
The U.S. Attorney's Office wants Jose Garcia Zarate to stay locked up for as long as possible following his acquittal of murdering Kate Steinle in a case that sparked fierce national debate over illegal immigration and sanctuary cities. Zarate, a multiple felon and 5-time deportee, now facing new federal immigration and weapons charges.
He should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I mean, the government's job is to maintain not only good optics, but real public safety, and this person appears to be a serious and imminent threat.
Although acquitted of murder, manslaughter, and assault, the jury did find Zarate guilty of being a felon in possession of a firearm. But Zarate's lawyers say they'll file a motion on Monday for a new trial, arguing he didn't know he had a gun in his hand until it accidentally discharged, and that the judge should have instructed the jury that split-second possession of a gun after it fires does not meet the requirement for a conviction. San Francisco's district attorney is defending his decision to file first-degree murder charges, which many thought was an overreach given the evidence. President Trump called the verdict disgraceful. Even so, DA George Gascon blasted the president for using the shooting to call for immigration reform, questioning the president's sanity.
We need to use a little bit of discipline and not allow simply somebody a madman that is tweeting, dictate everything else that we do.
Jose Zarate's lawyer, public defender Matt Gonzalez, also took issue with the president's constant tweeting about the controversial case. Kate Steinle's parents say, along with the verdict, they're frustrated their daughter's death has become so politicized. They have had nothing to say about the new federal indictments or the defense's plan to get Zarate's one conviction dismissed. Brett?
Claudia Cowan in San Francisco. Claudia, thank you. Up next, one of the president's sons in a closed-door meeting with the House Intelligence Committee about Russian interference in the election. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 24 in Charleston with day 3 of the sentencing hearing for a white former South Carolina law enforcement officer facing federal prison time for violating the civil rights of an unarmed black motorist. Prosecutors and defense attorneys for Michael Slager have put up more than a half-dozen witnesses, several of whom have analyzed video and audio recordings of the 2015 shooting death of Walter Scott. Fox 5 in Atlanta with a razor-thin margin in the mayor's race there. Democrat Keisha Lance Bottoms led independent Mary Norwood by just 759 votes after Tuesday's election. Norwood has requested a recount. And this is a live look at Miami from our affiliate Fox WSVN. The big story there tonight, and we do mean big, a record-setting python caught and killed in the Everglades. Take a look at this thing. Hunter Jason Leon killed the 17-foot, 1-inch snake as part of the Water District's python elimination program. Thank you, Jason. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.
Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. But after an electrical fire from faulty wiring, Mary's vintage clothing and designer shoe collection were ruined. Luckily, the Geico Insurance Agency had recently helped Mary with renter's insurance, and she got a totally fab replacement wardrobe at Bloomingdale's. Mary was inspired to start her own fashion line, exclusively for little lambs. Visit geico.com and see how affordable renter's insurance can be.
Hi, I'm Barry Sloan with NewTek, your business solutions company. Does your business need money? Whether you need $10,000 or $10 million, you can count on NewTek, the nation's largest non-bank government-guaranteed lender. NewTek can help your business expand and grow. With a simple phone interview, we can pre-qualify you in just 48 hours. And with rates as low as 6%, you can see why so many businesses turn to NewTek. To see how easy getting a loan can be, contact NewTek, your business solutions company, today.
Yeah, so Mom's got this cold. Hashtag stuffy nose, hashtag no sleep. I got it. Hashtag mouth breather.
Yep, we've got a mouth breather. Well, just put on a Breathe Right strip and pow! It instantly opens your nose up to 38% more than cold medicine alone. So you can breathe and sleep. Go to breatheright.com today to request a free sample.
Hello, I'm an Idaho potato farmer. You've probably seen me running all over the country in search of our big Idaho potato truck. But not anymore. I'm done with that. Ooh, hot. Just going to stay home on the farm, eat a beautiful Idaho potato, and watch TV with my dog.
The big Idaho potato truck pulled into town today, and it's really a sight to see.
Oh, man. Let's go. You coming, boy?
Do you have trouble falling asleep or wake up with a sore neck or headache? Then it's time you discovered MyPillow.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. 10 years ago, I invented MyPillow. It took me 2 years to develop because I wanted to have everything you would ever want in a pillow. I made sure that you could adjust my patented fill so you could have the exact support you need as an individual regardless of your sleep position. I also wanted a pillow that would last, so I made MyPillow machine washable and dryable. I back MyPillow with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota. I personally guarantee that MyPillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own.
Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use this promo code and Mike will give you a second MyPillow absolutely free. Don't delay. Buy one and get one free. Order now.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
We are getting new information tonight about the FBI investigator dismissed from the special counsel probe on Russia. It appears he left more of an electronic trail than first thought. Plus, one of the president's sons appears before the House Intelligence Committee. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is on Capitol Hill tonight to tell us what she's hearing. Good evening, Catherine.
Thank you, Brett. Late today, Fox News confirming there are more than 10,000 text messages between FBI agent Peter Strzok, who was fired by the special counsel for anti-Trump texts, and an FBI lawyer with whom he was romantically involved. Justice Department officials tell Fox News they're in the process of going through the text messages so they can be provided to the House Intelligence Committee. But caution, the process could take weeks because the text spans several months and the volume could be in the tens of thousands. Not only was Agent Strzok involved in the FBI interview of Hillary Clinton and the investigation into former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn, but Strzok was also on the team that looked into thousands of Hillary Clinton emails, which ended up in a laptop shared by Clinton aide Huma Abedin and her estranged husband, Anthony Weiner. Republicans will press FBI Director Christopher Wray tomorrow on a wide range of issues, from Agent Strzok to the Bureau's reliance on the anti-Trump dossier funded by the DNC and Clinton campaign.
Was this dossier in fact used? Was it part of what was taken to the FISA court to allow spying to take place on Americans who were associated with the Trump campaign?
Nobody should get special treatment, and nobody should be subjected to special bias. Each day we learn more information that reflects the double standard.
The House Government Oversight Committee ranking Democrat said today a credible whistleblower has come forward with new allegations against former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn, that he sent a series of texts to a business associate on Inauguration Day saying a nuclear power project in the Middle East built with Russian support was good to go, and President Trump planned to shred existing sanctions against Moscow. Also on Capitol Hill, Donald Trump Jr. testified in a closed classified session to the House Intelligence Committee, with Democrats pressing the president's son on the June 2016 meeting at Trump Tower with Jared Kushner, then campaign chairman Paul Manafort, and Russian lawyer Natalia Veselnitskaya. And just within the last hour, Brett, that session has concluded. Donald Trump Jr. was in the room for 10 hours. The ranking Democrat on the committee said he had issues with his testimony, specifically when he claimed attorney-client privilege, and would not discuss what he said to his father in crafting a press statement about the Trump Tower meeting, Brett.
Catherine Harris, live on the Hill. Catherine, thank you.
You're welcome.
The House overwhelmingly voted today to kill a resolution from a liberal Democratic lawmaker to impeach President Trump. A majority of Democrats joined Republicans in opposing the move. Democratic Congressman Al Green of Texas says President Trump has associated his presidency with causes rooted in bigotry and racism. After Green's resolution was read aloud, the House voted 364 to 58 to table that measure. The American muscle flexing in the Korean Peninsula is featuring some of the most sophisticated and deadly aircraft in the world. Tonight, national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin shows us what's happening in the air from the Pentagon. Good evening, Jennifer.
Good evening, Brett. This escalating tension comes after the U.S. Navy pulled all three of its aircraft carriers who were training together in the waters off Korea in what was billed as an unprecedented show of force that we now know lasted just 4 days. Today's show of force involved a massive aerial exercise with the South Korean Air Force. The 5-day drills began Monday and involved more than 200 aircraft, including U.S. F-22 and F-35 stealth fighters. An American B-1 supersonic bomber flew from Guam over South Korea, simulating airstrikes at targets on the east coast of the Korean Peninsula. A message to Kim Jong-un, who is seen here inspecting the intercontinental ballistic missile that he test-fired last week, a missile that could hit the U.S. North Korea's brash young leader does not seem to be getting the message.
China just sent an envoy to North Korea. Does that mean that that envoy failed, that they had this launch?
I don't think it came as a surprise to Chinese leadership that this envoy was rejected and was not didn't even have a meeting with Kim Jong-un. And he's not going to have a Grinch moment, I don't think, with his heart grows 2 sizes larger, and we see him change his behavior.
The reaction from North Korea to this week's joint military exercise was predictable. U.S. imperial mongers' extremely reckless war hysteria threatens nuclear war. Today, a spokesman for China's Air Force announced it had staged exercises along routes and areas it has never flown before, with surveillance aircraft over the Yellow and East Seas near Korea, a warning to the U.S. to back off. But the U.S. exercise didn't all go as planned. One of the stealth F-22s faced mechanical problems upon landing and had to be towed, and we're now learning that B-1 bomber the U.S. flew over the Korean Peninsula today was supposed to be joined by a second B-1, but it too was grounded due to mechanical problems, Brett.
Jennifer Griffin live at the Pentagon. Jennifer, thank you. Up next, the panel on the president's decision to move the U.S. Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. First, beyond our borders tonight, the Associated Press is reporting doctors treating U.S. Embassy victims of suspected attacks in Cuba have discovered brain abnormalities as they search and try to explain hearing, vision, balance, and memory damage. The finding is one of several fueling growing skepticism that some kind of sonic weapon was involved. A 20-year-old man appeared in court today accused of plotting to kill British Prime Minister Theresa May. The plan allegedly involved planting a bomb near the entrance of the Prime Minister's residence, then continuing the attack with a knife, pepper spray, and a suicide vest. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he will run for re-election next March. Putin had delayed an announcement until today. If Putin serves another 6-year term, he would be Russia's longest-serving ruler since Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin. Just some of the other stories beyond our borders tonight. We'll be right back.
I want you to take it easy. Go slow.
Work your body liner. Work, 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 Sinora. Work it all the time.
Let's go. Mom!
For the ones who keep pushing, always unstoppable. When you have a cold, stuff happens. Shut down cold symptoms fast with maximum strength Alka-Seltzer Plus liquid gels.
Tired of sore throat lozenges that only last a short time? Try new Alka-Seltzer Plus sore throat relief. The melts dissolve quickly. Plus, the powerful pain reliever provides long-lasting relief for up to 6 hours. Try new Alka-Seltzer Plus.
On April 4th, the world's largest investment bank purchased $300 million of gold for their own account. What do they know that you don't? Investors are snapping up gold. This commodity is on the verge of an epic comeback. Gold and silver, opportunity of a lifetime.
We're seeing a lot of very big, very smart money move into precious metals. They get it. They know what's coming.
Call now and get this exclusive video. See why banks, billionaires, and financial experts are buying gold.
The richest guys who know what they're talking about, like Dalio and those guys, they're shifting into gold now.
Call Lear Capital at 1-800-452-5050 for your free video and special report, Banks, Billionaires, and Plan B. First-time callers receive this revolutionary gold note. It's a 1/20th gram of pure gold pressed into a paper-thin dollar-sized bill.
Everybody should have gold in their portfolio.
Get your free information and ask how you can receive up to $600 in free gold. Call 1-800-452-5050.
You are my navigator. We can take the long way home. We can take the long way home. You are my navigator. Never have to bring me home. You never have to bring me home. 'Cause home is everywhere we go.
Happy holidays, boss. It's from all of us.
Really? Wow! Thank you, everybody!
A WeatherTech gift card is the perfect holiday gift with so many automotive accessories to choose from. From American-made laser-measured floor liners to no-drill mud flaps or Bump Step XL. Nothing protects like WeatherTech. Order your WeatherTech gift card today at WeatherTech.com.
You gotta see this!
Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays from WeatherTech.
I have determined that it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. This is nothing more or less than a recognition of reality. It is also the right thing to do. It's something that has to be done. That is why, consistent with the Jerusalem Embassy Act, I am also directing the State Department to begin preparation to move the American Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
I think tonight he is strengthening the forces of extremists in this region as no one has done before.
President Trump making a big announcement today at the White House, following through on a campaign pledge. Other presidents have campaigned on that and mentioned it, but it's never gone this far, to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem and to make Jerusalem, to have the U.S. acknowledge Jerusalem as the capital of the State of Israel. As you can imagine, this is getting, in the Arab world, a lot of pushback, but not just there. You see these 18 countries warning the U.S. against moving the embassy, and they include Belgium, France, Germany, Ireland, Luxembourg, Russia, and the United Kingdom, and specific warnings against recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Egypt saying it would complicate the Middle East process, potentially dangerous repercussions from Jordan. Palestinians, dangerous was the word. Saudi Arabia, detrimental to the peace process. And Turkey says it threatens to sever ties with Israel. That said, a lot of praise for the move from evangelicals, from Jewish leaders. It's a mixed bag across the world. Let's bring in our panel. Steve Hilton is a former advisor to British Prime Minister David Cameron and host of The Next Revolution here on Fox News Channel. Rachel Bade, congressional reporter for Politico, and Byron York, chief political correspondent for The Washington Examiner. All right, Steve, your thought of how this was laid out and the reaction.
Well, Bret, you know, when I saw the chorus of disapproval, I think it was more against than for today. When you got the Chinese against it, the French against it, the EU against it, all the foreign policy establishment, it seems, against it, my instinctive reaction was I'm for it, because at least it's a change from the status quo that has basically failed, that all the people that are against this have defended. But I've got another point I wanted to make, which is that, you know, it's something that it just mystifies me why the hell they have waded into this at this point. When you think about why Donald Trump was elected last year, it was to get the economy moving, to bring back jobs, to raise wages, to look after those people, the forgotten men and women that we hear all about, and to get their prospects on the rise. People who supported him on that basis must be wondering, we didn't elect you to mess around in the Middle East. Once you've dealt with the problems here at home, then maybe turn to this. And I think that a lot of the populists who supported President Trump, who wanted from him, for the first time in many years, a pro-worker policy agenda, will be infuriated by yet another distraction from delivering that.
Rachel, you know, you had some Democrats up on Capitol Hill who previously had called for this very move, putting out statements criticizing the move.
I would say from Congress, the overwhelming reaction from Republicans was very positive. Even Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader in the Senate, did praise this move. However, you know, you talk to advocates. There's a reason people have talked about this for years and not done it, and that is because peace advocates in the region have sort of made this case that if you recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, you give Israel something they want that has brought them to the bargaining table, to the negotiating table, to reach a peace accord with the Palestinians. So a lot of reaction on that. We're hearing Nancy Pelosi came out against it. I also think it's interesting from a White House standpoint. It's sort of risky for them because Jared Kushner is trying to strike an accord between Israel and Palestine. And basically, you know, this could have a blowback. And from what we're hearing from the White House, it sounds like they think, yes, there's going to be some negative reaction to it in the Middle East right now. But apparently, Jared Kushner is convinced that that will die down and the peace process will continue.
Byron.
You know, this is one of these things where we've been doing something one way for 25 years and it hasn't worked. And someone proposes to do something differently and the crowd goes, oh, no, no, you can't change the way we've been doing things. And Trump has essentially called the bluff of all those people in the government, in the U.S. government, who have said they supported this change and then not wanted to actually do it. You heard him in that soundbite refer to the Jerusalem Embassy Act passed by Congress in 1995 saying to relocate the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem, passed with 93 votes in the Senate, 374 votes in the House. This was overwhelmingly approved. It has been reaffirmed since then, and Trump is simply calling the bluff. On the other hand, kind of like what he's done with the Iran nuclear deal, the Paris Climate Accord, he's kind of doing it gradually. He's not doing it tomorrow. He actually signed another waiver to keep the embassy in Tel Aviv for another period of time, and he set us on the course of doing this without doing it in an abrupt way. So he's getting a lot of support, as you mentioned, from Republicans for doing this.
Yeah, and here are the leaders on the ground, Israel and the Palestinians' reaction to that.
Profoundly grateful for the President for his courageous and just decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and to prepare for the opening of the U.S. Embassy here. This decision reflects the President's commitment to an ancient but enduring truth, to fulfilling his promises, and to advancing peace.
He is in total violation of international law, human rights, and he's turning the conflict between Palestinians and Israelis from a political one into a religious one.
Steve.
Well, funnily enough, it's the same as with so many of these decisions that he makes. I completely agree with Byron, where he goes against the prevailing wisdom, the kind of elite's view of how things should be done. The overreaction from the critics and from the establishment actually pushes people into the president's camp. When I see some of those responses, you know, this is a finely balanced argument. There are really good arguments on both sides. It's not an easy judgment. I happen to agree with it. I think it's the right move. My only question is, why did they have to do this now? But when you see the overreaction from the other side, I think it actually strengthens the resolve of the president to keep making decisions like this.
Well, I think this wraps it up. Longtime nemesis on the campaign trail, Jeb Bush, tweeted out, "Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, and I applaud at POTUS for seeing through America's promise to relocate its embassy there. This is an important show of solidarity with Israel, one of our nation's greatest allies." They haven't always been allies, Jeb Bush and Donald Trump. We'll leave it